A couple of years ago, I made a video about hearing voices while I was asleep, and the voice was saying something about the 17th, and there are 7 cycles, and this is the last of the 7. But today I heard another voice, and this voice said, there are 7 cycles, and this is the last of the 7 cycles. I made that video in 2017, and you guys, last night I just felt like, God wanted me to go and look through my videos, and I ended up coming back to that video, and I was watching it with my daughter, so my daughter got up and Googled it. And what's crazy is, it was actually, the video I found was actually made in 2015. So it was already out.
Is it possible that there exists an ancient mystery that lies behind the events of modern times that determines the rise and fall of the stock market and the economy, the rise and collapse of nations, the destruction of empires and superpowers, a mystery more than 3,000 years old, and yet that determines global cataclysms?
The Shemitah, for those that don't know, is if God says every 7 years you'll have a Sabbath year, and this is the Shemitah. We rest, nothing, economic cessation. On the last day of that Shemitah is an extraordinary thing. It's called Elul 29. All debts are wiped out, credits wiped out, the financial accounts of the nation are wiped clean. And this is to be a blessing, Pat. But what happens when Israel turns away from God, the blessing turns into a sign of judgment. When they were taken into Babylon, it was 70 years of judgment.
It's crazy. In this video, I say I need a Jew to help me with this.
I have found a cycle within the 50 that is 7 years, and how do you know when it starts?
Well, a few things. First of all, the Jubilee cycle is actually geared to the Shemitah cycle. It says after 7 Shemitahs comes the Jubilee, ushers in the Jubilee. Well, we know, we don't have a record of when the Jubilee was celebrated in the times of Messiah, but we do know when the Shemitah was celebrated.
How do we know that?
We have it from the rabbinic writings. We have it from the 1st century, or
When does it start and when does it end?
Well, you mean this one?
Yeah. Let's take this one.
Okay, well, yeah. This one started in September of 2014, is coming to a head next week, or this coming weekend, actually. And the thing is, the 66 year the Shemitah, stock market collapses. 1973 year the Shemitah, stock market collapses, leads to a global recession. 1980, you have recession, and then the stock market collapses after. You have 87, stock market collapses in the Shemitah of that, and you have Black Monday, the worst percentage crash in history. Shemitah of 1994, the bond market collapses, called the bond market massacre, greatest in history. 2001, you have the stock market collapsing, recession, you have the greatest point crash in world history, and you have 9/11, which is the shaking of America. The Shemitah also means shaking. And then you have 2008, which is the last one. Right. What do you have? The greatest collapse since the Great Depression, the greatest one-day point crash in world history. So every single one, and this even extends to the Great Depression. So the thing is that, so here it's happening, and the other thing, Pat, is that this phenomenon appears to have been intensifying.
He make you understand what the 7 cycles mean.
And there will come a flood that will begin the end of religious freedom, even usher in persecution, and seal America's fall. And if America falls, it will affect the entire world. This year, 2020, is crucial, as it leads to a presidential election in which the stakes are higher and the necessity of prayer more critical than ever before. And even if the election goes in the direction of biblical values and righteousness, if we don't see a spiritual turning, an awakening, a repentance, a revival, then all the political, legal, judicial, and cultural efforts will ultimately fail or be undone. We have a window of time, and the purpose of that window is to return and for revival. Without that return, America will be lost. What can we do? What can you do? In the days following 9/11, people flocked to houses of worship, and it looked as if there could have been a spiritual revival, an awakening, but it never came, because there was no repentance. And without repentance, without a turning back, there can be no revival.
Here, his executive authority trumps any local order. At the crux of it all,
church services. Hillsborough leaders have banned any large gatherings in the name of public health.